Hello and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming in today's hardware review. Today we're going to be talking about 2K gaming. Now I realize that there is 4K gaming and I have no interest in doing that. I have absolutely zero interest in engaging in any kind of 4K gaming. But for years, literally 20 years, I have been gaming at 2K. My first 2K monitor was a CRT monitor that I bought way back in 2002, and that monitor worked for 14 years before it finally popped and gave out on me. Um, its resolution was 2048 by 1536. It was a great monitor. I had no problems with it. When it came out, or I should say, when I bought it back in 2002, there were games that couldn't even go to that resolution yet. Um, Now, a few years later, yes, almost all my games were capable of going to 2048 by 1536 and even beyond. One of the things that I liked about 2K and I still like about 2K gaming is the graphics. I've always liked the graphics in games. I like the pretty colors. But the other thing that I like about 2K gaming is that it didn't hurt my eyes. I don't know what kind of CRT monitor I had before this, but it would give me headaches. This one never did. Well, let me rephrase it. It would after like 8 or 9 hours. It would give me headaches. So as the years went on, I had bought a couple other 27-inch monitors, cheaper ones. One of them was a VA panel, and the other one was a TN panel. Um, One of those I kept as a backup, which I still use as a backup, and the other one I actually put on my internet computer. As long as I was only staring at it for, let's say 30, 40 minutes at a time, probably less than that, it didn't bother me. It didn't hurt my eyes. But I also own two 1440p monitors, or 2K monitors, and those monitors are IPS. I also own a 55-inch TV that is IPS. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saying IPS specifically. It's because for whatever reason, and I don't truly grasp it, but an IPS monitor does not hurt your eyes. It won't give you those headaches. It doesn't make you feel like there's pressure behind your eyes after a couple hours of staring at it. So the first 1440p monitor I ever got was way back in 2016. And I say way back, that wasn't that long ago. But it was right after this monitor popped, I had to buy another monitor. And I couldn't get a CRT because those don't exist anymore. So I looked at getting one of today's, 2K monitors, which is today's 2K monitors are scaled at 2560 by 1440. And this is the monitor that I bought back in 2016. It a gaming monitor. It's IPS. It had a high refresh rate, which I've never used. I've never set any of my monitors above 120 hertz. Never. And I own two of them that are capable of this 144 or better. Um, and there's a reason for that. And in most cases, especially with like newer games, I'll set them to like 60, 90, 80. It's the game that decides what hertz I set it at. Um, and what do I mean by that? Well, I use software that'll tell me how quickly my video card is capable of rendering frames per second. And whatever the lowest frame per second that it does in my testing of that game is what I set my monitor to. So let's say the average frames per second is 144 frames per second. But the lowest frame that it ever hit was 90 frames per second. That's what I set my monitor to. And by doing so, I never get, how do you explain that? I never get those slowdowns in my games or those micro stutters. They don't occur because I always set my refresh rate to be below what my video card is capable of sending or rendering, or however you want to put that. And I don't remember who taught me how to do that, but I'm sure it's one of these, tech channels that I was watching who explained this, and I was like, okay, I can do that. Because with CRT, that's not a thing that you have to worry about. I don't know exactly how all that worked because I never really got into it, but I never really got micro stuttering on my CRT monitor. It just never happened. But on these, if you set your refresh rate too high and your video card isn't capable of keeping up with that, you will. You'll even get stops for like split second stops or even longer. And that has always been something that was kind of a pet peeve of mine. I like my gameplay to be fluent, so I always tried to achieve that. And I would go online and kind of research to figure out how to do that. I do enjoy hardware in that respect, but when it came to monitors, I never really got into the hardware of it in that respect because the monitor is something that you stare at all the time. My main concerns with the monitor were like three things. One, did it give me good color contrast? And maybe that's not the correct way of saying that, but would it generate vibrant colors? Would it show me the difference between, dark and lightened areas? Did it transition well between the two? That's something that I always looked for. And the other thing that I looked for was a monitor that didn't hurt my eyes. Like I said, I own a VA panel and I own a TN panel. Both of those panels hurt my eyes, which is why when I went to buy a gaming monitor to game on, and I knew I would be staring at this thing for hours at a time, I had to have something that was not going to hurt my eyes. And IPS monitors, I'm not going to say all IPS monitors, but a nice IPS monitor does not hurt your eyes. I think they build technology into them to mitigate that problem. And if you look at like your professional monitors for like people who do video rendering and stuff like that, they're all IPS, all of them. And there's a good reason for that. So back in the day, yes, I believe I spent $600 for this monitor in 2016. And while I thought that was a little outrageous for a 27-inch monitor, considering that you could get one back then for $150, but it would be a TN or VA panel, and I already had those. I didn't want any more, so I bought one of these, and I can't complain about it. I've used it for 6 years. It's run great. I've had no problems with it. Um, I've always used the what is that called? Type of connection that it's on is it's not HDMI. DisplayPort. It's on a DisplayPort, full size DisplayPort connection. And I've learned a little bit about DisplayPort connections too. Um, yeah, you got DisplayPort input and one mini DisplayPort input. Um, I even got a converter that would convert because when I bought this, I was still running a um, CRT. So the video card that I had still had the VGA output. And I bought a converter for this monitor when I first got it that converted VGA to mini DisplayPort. And that converter was expensive. I mean, it was like $250 for the converter too. So I spent a lot of money on my initial setup for this monitor. I don't have that problem with today because my 1080 ties have, or no, it was DVI to mini DisplayPort. That's what that thing is. Yes, it's DVI to mini DisplayPort. I'm actually looking at it. But today my video cards, my 1080 ties have DisplayPort out, so it's a straight connection. Now with the I'll go on and explain the setup that I have right now. That the setup I have now, I actually have all my computers in another room, and in my office, I have a total of 4 monitors actually, and no computers. All that noise is over there. A bunch of controllers and 3 keyboards, as well as all the connecting hardware for that, mice and this blah 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 blah, yeah, all that stuff. And to get all this functional, I know people are probably thinking, oh, well, he's probably using Wi-Fi, or I'm using Bluetooth, or no, not at all. I'm not using one of those Thunderbolt connections, and no, it's all wired. Yes, it's all wired. And I have bundles, plural, of wiring going from another room to this room. And I learned the hard way that you can't go. The distance that I'm going is like 35 feet total. Because you got to go up, and then you go across the ceiling, and then you come down. 35 feet is the max distance that I'm actually traveling. A display port, just a standard display port cable that you would pick up, can't go that far. It can't carry a signal that distance. So I learned that I had to get a fiber optic display cable to go that distance, and it works fine. Just to give you guys an idea of what's going on over here. Now, like I said, this isn't the only one that I have. I also have another one that I bought just a couple of years ago, and I did pay about $400 for that one, and it was this one right here. It's also a 2K monitor. It is 144 hertz, and actually goes to 165. 2560 by 1440, and it's an IPS, again, a gaming monitor. Real fast response time. It's got this G-Sync compatibility for a tear-free experience, but like I said, I always set my refresh rate below what my video card is capable of rendering. So I never used the G-Sync technology. I never used the FreeSync technology. I never used the what's the other one called? I don't remember. But there's another one, adaptive sync. And I've never used the adaptive sync technology on any of these monitors. It was never something that I saw a necessity for in that respect. But I do still enjoy playing at 2K. Even today's newer games, I love to see them at 2K. Um, my 55-inch TV is capable of 4K, but I've never used it at that. Well, I say never. I did once for like 10 minutes just to see what it does, and that was actually pretty recently, like a year ago. Um, but to give you an idea of when this TV was built, in order to activate 2K on this TV, I have to have two HDMI cables plugged into it. Yeah, yeah. This TV is over 10 years old. Just to give you an idea as to the era in which it was built in. But it does work at 4K. Like I said, I didn't like it because it got really hot really fast. So I just disconnected that whole thing and never tried it again. But as far as 2K monitors go, there's there's a lot to be said about 2K gaming that I think is left out. And truly, I don't know how to explain that in a way that most people would understand. So I'm not going to try. But in my opinion, I prefer 2K gaming because I don't feel that the technology is really there yet for 4K gaming. And by the time I get into 4K gaming, I mean 8K or 16K or whatever they're going to go with will probably be a thing by then. I know there's 8K monitors today, and I know that there are a few games out there that can do 8K. But I have, like I said, no interest in even going to 4K yet, let alone 8 or 16. I don't even know if they have a 16K that exists. I don't think so. But what I do like about 2K gaming is that it seems as if these games, even the ones being designed today, are really tailored to the 1 and 2K gaming experience. Um, because the programs function so well at that resolution, or both of those resolutions, I should say, and 1K being um, the most functional. I've had games that I've tried to record at 2K just give me nothing but trouble trying to record it at 2K. Um, but at 1K, I have no problems recording them at all. And I know I've discussed this before, but I'm just going to kind of hit on it now. So, for all of my recording of all of my gameplay, I play and record the games at 1K. For me, that's a downgrade. I'm going from 2K gaming that I've done for 20 years down to 1K so that I don't have problems with recording. And I also didn't like the massive amount of hard drive space required to record games at 2K. Um, so there was a couple of reasons why I did that. But the main one was really about compatibility, making sure that all my programs were compatible with what I was doing. And all of them are compatible with 1K. So my review of 2K monitors, I've had one that's been running for 6 years, still runs great. If it lasts me 14 years, I'd be super happy. And as far as the new one that I bought, I've been using it for 2 years with no problem so far. Um, I know that's not a glowing review, but it's functional, it works, it doesn't hurt my eyes, so I'm happy with that. And rendering it at 1K on a 2K monitor gives you nice, clear, crisp viewing. And okay, so that's my review for the day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of yours.